You are now listening to the Inner Circle Podcast Network.
Hashtag No Offense uses strong language and is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Hashtag No Offense.
Welcome back to the Hashtag No Offense Show. My name is Chris, HTNOS.com, HTNOS on all the socials. This is episode 166, I believe. I don't really ever know, and I usually look to my co-host for leadership and guidance when I am lost, but she's not here today. It's just me. It's just me in the studio, but it's not just me in the world, because I'm joined by my brother from another mother, my probably longest running guest on this show. I think you've probably had the most appearances on this show if I had to guess. It's Lord Jason Alme.
What's good, everybody? Hey, how's it going? Woo!
And he says,
hey,
you told me that I was coming in a little hot, so I'm just going to fucking woohoo in the mic.
I apologize. I was trying not to woohoo too loud, but I probably could have given this mic a little bit of space.
You do definitely warrant a woohoo.
Woohoo!
Well, we're coming to you for breakfast, man. This is a Sunday morning chat. We're taking it to Sunday service, as it were. You know, if I can, gonna get to the bottom of some shit today.
I skipped church for this. What a lot of people don't know is I go to church every single week. I mean, it's Jewish church, but whatever, you know, it's the same difference, right?
The Church of Cochico Latter-day Saints?
Yeah, the Cochico Church of Latter-day Saints, man. It's a great church. It's a really great church. I'm here to talk to all of your listeners about our Lord and Savior, Olivia Newton-John.
I thought you were going to say Olivia Cochico. Like, you ain't putting a name to that.
Olivia Cochico-John.
You son of a bitch.
Man.
I got some overhead here, which requires me to pay some bills. So let me go ahead and shout out some sponsors. Each and every week, the Hashtag No Offense Show is sponsored by Hemp Bombs CBD. Hemp Bombs are specifically formulated to provide consumers with a quality CBD product at an affordable price. Many benefits of Hemp Bombs include reduced anxiety, increased sense of relaxation, reduction of aches and pains, mood enhancement, and deeper, more restful sleep. Hemp Bombs come in a wide variety of different products, including oils, gummies, suckers, vapes, and even products for your pet. Use code HTNOS at hempbombs.com to save 20% on your entire order. And just a special, quick little sidebar shout out to everyone who has utilized that code over the last couple months. You are doing your part in keeping a middling podcaster afloat. So I appreciate you and just would like to salute you for your service.
Salute to you, CBD loving motherfuckers.
Absolutely. I mean, DJ, our brother from the Inner Circle, DJ from the Untrained Eye, he tells me repeatedly how it changes his life.
That feels so good to say, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's like, dude, like, you have no idea. Like, yeah, it's expensive, and yeah, it's like, to take that initial leap is like a lot, but he was like, man, once I started getting that, dude, like, I fucking sleep better, I feel better, like, everything's just better.
Dude, but your code, I mean, obviously using the code helps out a lot with the expense and whatnot. It's not like the shipping is crazy high. I mean,
well, they're in Tampa. DJ's in Tampa. I'm in Tampa. Fucking Hemp Bombs is in Tampa. It's all local, dude. We could drive by and fucking pick it up. I'm sure we could do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're ordering cases of water. That shit's like 40 pounds. You know what I'm saying? Like,
go to liquiddeath.com, use code party naked.
I mean, you could do that. I'd appreciate it if you did, but you know, I can understand why the shipping on the hemp bombs is a little different than the shipping on the 20 pounds of water.
Yeah, right. We are also sponsored by Onnit.com. Onnit is a health and fitness juggernaut dedicated to delivering complete and total human optimization through a wide array of products and supplements. Onnit combines cutting-edge science, earth-grown nutrients, and time-tested strategies to help people reach their peak performance. These are all what you would call nootropics. These are vitamins for your brain. They help you be sharper. They help you form sentences better. They help you remember and recall things. There also is workout equipment, nothing that our guest would appreciate because it doesn't come in a needle and you don't inject it into your ass, but it still helps you get an extra edge when you're in the gym the Shroom Tech gives you that little extra burst to go for that personal best to get your gains if you're into that sort of thing. And I mean, it's all just good, high quality shit. It is. I mean,
we're looking at you.
I stand by the Alpha Brain. It's the best. So visit.
Good fucking high quality.
I was trying to buy you time to do that because I saw you reaching around and I knew what you were doing.
I was fumbling.
Fumble fucking over there with your goddamn board and shit.
Yeah, you said high quality, and I was like, oh, I got something for that. I got producer Nick.
Visit onnit.com. That's ONNIT.com. Use code HTNOS, HTNOS. Save 10% on whatever you choose to make yourself a better version of yourself.
Hell yeah.
Now, business out of the way. What's good, brother? Thank you for filling in for Dutch. She actually just informed me that she is on her way back from Atlanta. She is on the road right now, on route to home. So
she's just driving then? I didn't know if she drove or flew.
No, she just flew up there. It's an easy enough, like, she left after work on Friday and she got there like at midnight. So, I mean, it's an easy
drive. Is better.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
After all the planes I've gotten on to go see you fucks over the last couple of years, like, I never want to drive anywhere ever again.
Yeah, the drives, I mean, and it really depends on what you're doing, what you're going for. But if you're going to like visit friends and you're driving more than, I don't know, an hour or two maybe, and you're visiting friends for the weekend, you're going to be up late, you're going to be partying, there might be a little drinking involved, and then so the ride home, it's like Sunday morning and you got to drive. God, I remember driving home from Jersey a year ago, man, when we did that. We had that episode 200 of Sam PC a year ago, dude, driving 5 hours home from Jersey. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and that was the morning after the birth of creatures. So, I mean, some substances were consumed, some things were talked about, some frame of minds were entered, some elevations of consciousness may or may not have happened. And then you're like, now I have to get back to the real world and get into my fucking Toyota and drive 5 hours. Like,
yeah. That Chinese saved me that next day when we walked down and got that Chinese.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that crispy chicken. I boxed up the leftovers and I stopped midway for some gas on the way back. And I just, I stayed in the car for a minute and I just ate the rest of that Chinese. Like,
I was going to say, what a meal. What a meal to have to try to balance, like you drive, put your knees on the steering wheel and get a fucking, well, I was going to say get a fork, but I mean, only Jason Alme has his own personal chopsticks in a little pouch to go at all times, keeps them in his back pocket like a slingshot. He's like Chinese Dennis the Menace walking around here and shit.
How weebish would that be though? Like I gotta admit, I've always been a fan of the Asian cultures with my study of martial arts, and I visited China and stuff like that. So everybody knows that I appreciate the Asian cultures, parts of them at least. But like, if you got your own chopsticks, like I'm better than like having my own washable plastic chopsticks. Like I just got wood ones from the, every time I order Chinese or sushi from that joint I took you at when you were up here.
Right.
Every time I order, they put like 5 or 6 pairs of chopsticks in there because I order like $80 worth of food, so they think it's like 5 people. But they always give me a whole bunch of chopsticks, so I save them. But they're like the wooden disposable ones. So if I ever need to use chopsticks, I'm just reaching for like the wooden ones, and then I just throw them when I'm done with them. How terribly weebish is it to be like, I've got my own plastic chopsticks. I take these with me to a restaurant. Like, you gotta bring chopsticks to a restaurant. I'll use whatever they give me there, but
you don't have a little compartment in that black case that you carry around for your diabetic stuff. You don't have a little slot for fucking chopsticks. If you tell me you don't have a little chopstick holder within that fucking black case, motherfucker, I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
You're not going to believe this then, but I don't have chopsticks.
I mean, my kid has them, but he won't use them just because they came with his ramen bowl. But he won't. He won't use them.
My daughter, actually. This is funny that this came up because we did order sushi and a little bit of Chinese because my daughter doesn't eat sushi yet because she's 1.5 years, so we don't feed her raw fish yet. But we ordered a little bit of this like basil chicken. It's just like stir fried chicken breast with like a light sauce. It's not super or whatever, so it's good for her, right? She likes the little vegetables. I'll cut them up real small. And she's watching me eat with chopsticks. And she's like reaching for them, and she'd take the chopsticks out of my hand. And Obviously, she's a year and a half. She's not doing shit with a chopstick, but she's like poking her food with them and stuff. But then I'll start feeding her with the chopsticks, like I'll hold out a piece of food for her and she'll start taking it. I think she's ready to go. She's ready to learn how to use chopsticks.
And she's looking at this while she's learning how to use regular ass utensils, forks, knives, spoons. And she's going, what the fuck? What am I going to do with this? How is this better than what you've given me before?
Yeah, like how is this better than the Disney princess fork that's pink? She wants to play with the chopsticks. I let her play with the chopsticks. It's definitely not the worst thing that she could stick in an electrical socket. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Good. They're not good conductors.
She'd do all right. But no, and it's funny that you said that too, because I was watching Dutch, her exploits on social media last night as she was hitting the Atlanta town and checking in all over with her friend and posting pictures of her drinks. And as the night went on, the eyes got a little lower, and I was like, man, she ain't getting home till fucking midnight tomorrow. And I was sitting here getting ready to talk to you, and she hit me up. She said, on the road. I was like, wow, fucking good for you.
Damn, all right, that's good. That's good. I mean, that's just that's rough. Like I definitely I've had my fair share of those weekends, and your listeners may not know. They might. Some of them might. I'm from Atlanta, so I live in New Hampshire now. But of course, I spent 30 years of my life in Atlanta, in the Metro Atlanta area, and so I appreciate that she went to Atlanta. I can't wait to ask her which spots she hit, because I expect that she hit a few that I'm going to know of at least, because they're well known. They're hot spots, but. Those drives, man, I've done a few of them. Like we used to go, because I'm from University of Georgia, so the UGA Florida game is always the weekend most proximal to Halloween. It's always the last weekend, the last Saturday in October.
Right.
They have it in Jacksonville, of course, so they don't go back and forth between Athens and Gainesville. They have it in Jacksonville. It's supposed to be neutral ground or whatever, but it's a great time. It's a fantastic party. I've been there several times, but we would drive down there from Athens. And it's about a 4-hour drive, 5-hour drive from Athens to Jacksonville. And that is a miserable, miserable drive to take on the way home. Like Sunday afternoon, you're finally getting into the car and rolling out after you've been, you take Friday off. You drive down Thursday, you're there all Friday, all Saturday. You pack as much, because you're 22 or whatever and you're half retarded. So you pack as much partying as you can in 48 hours. And then you wake up Sunday, you're broke. So it's just like a McDonald's, whatever they got 2 for $3. You order 4 of those, $6 does it, plus $1 for the Diet Coke, no ice, because you need as much Coke as you can in that large. You pay $7 for the greasiest ass sausage McMuffin, breakfast or whatever, and you eat this and you're just feeling greasy and grimy and just nasty, and you try to drive home, and I'm the asshole driving for 4.5 hours, and everybody in the fucking car is falling asleep. I'm half asleep. I'm like, would one of you motherfuckers like to wake up and try to keep me halfway entertained so I don't fall asleep when we ram into a fucking 18-wheeler coming the opposite direction, you cocksuckers?
Well, that's what I was going to say, too. Going to an event like that, you're jazzed up. You're riding the energy. You're like, woo-hoo. I'm 24 as fuck. Yeah. Woo-hoo-hoo. It's fucking rivalry game. We're going to Florida. Yeah. There might be titties. There definitely will be drinks.
Titties. Yeah.
There might be some fucking substances floating around. We're flying high.
100%. Yeah.
But then 2 days later, all you're doing is going home. So then it's like walk of shame, dude. It's like,
it is. Ugh. Yeah. And it's like I've driven 2 places, when I've driven to Florida, because that was a common, when you're in Georgia and you go to UGA, it's a common destination is Florida, because it's within a relatively short drive. It's not intimidating. You can get in the car.
I don't think that the country band Florida Georgia line became a thing because it's not a common thing. I think that when you live close to there, I think that you hop. And I'm from Chicago. My listeners know that, and where that is set, it's definitely on the border of Indiana and Illinois. Like Dutch is actually, she was from Indiana. Like I met her. Like I always say I had to go across the border to get her and bring her back, because Indiana is like another country.
Wow. Yeah, so you're smuggling a minor across state lines and shit.
Yeah, we used to go over there for cheaper gas prices and fucking no tax on cigarettes and fucking all the good shit. But then they come across the border because they're puritanical and you can't buy alcohol on Sundays. So everyone in Indiana is like, we're going to drive to Illinois to get our booze for football.
I remember that. Georgia used to be that way when I was that age. I don't really do a lot of drinking anymore, as you know. I'm not, it's like what I was going to say earlier about that those drives is like you can only do that when you're young. Like you hit a certain age and you're just like, oh, I can't. Like a 3-hour drive in the car after being up all night and partying and 2 days. I can't do that shit anymore. Like that shit's for young people. And you hit a certain age where you're just like, that's disgusting. Like I'm going to stop drinking at 9 o'clock. I'm going to have a tea. I'm going to be in bed by 10:30. And then, I'm going to get up and do some yoga in the morning, meditate, alpha brain, and then hit the road. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not fucking around with that, party all night for 2 straight fucking days, pissing in a cup in the middle of the Jacksonville landing, putting it down, trying to walk away from it really fast before someone kicks your urine over and it splashes up on your jeans. Fuck that. I'm not living that life anymore. I can't do that.
I was going to say that is super specific, bro.
Yeah, I did that one time. So when you go to the Georgia-Florida game, right? I mean, this is incredible. I got to I need to go back. Would you guys want to meet? Like, if we could somehow finagle childcare, if you and Dutchie would meet me and Christina at the Jacksonville landing.
I'd love to.
For the Georgia-Florida game. Holy shit, that would be incredible. And it's a drive for you guys, too, because it's like a different part of Florida.
It's probably close to 4 hours for us, too, because we vacation in St. Augustine, which is on the other side of the state, and it's about 30 minutes south of Jacksonville. And it's like
21 hours for us now in New Hampshire. But
I figured you would fly to your parents' house and then make it an afterthought, because God forbid anyone flies to Florida to actually visit me. You
don't understand how down Christina and I are for it, especially this time of year. It's February. We live in New Hampshire. It's been nothing but ice and snow.
I'll have you know that I promised my kids if they be quiet while we record, we're going in the pool when we're done. So stick that in your pipe and
son of a bitch. There's ice out on my driveway right now because it snowed yesterday morning and then the snow turned into rain. And then, of course, it's cold overnight. So all that shit froze. So if your kids get tired of swimming in the pool today on the last day of February and they would like to get on a plane and come north, they could actually ice skate this evening. They could swim in a pool in the morning, and because Uncle Jay has an ice skating rink in his driveway right now, they could ice skate before bedtime.
That is the goddamn American dream.
That is so ridiculous. But anyway, that's the thing. Like this time of year, that only serves to make my point for me, because this time of year, Christine and I are looking at each other like, why did we ever move out of Georgia? Because we lived in Georgia together for a while. And I was like, this is, Georgia is not exactly Florida. We wouldn't be in the pool today in Georgia, but it's not, there's no ice. You don't have to worry about slipping on ice on the way out to your car and busting your kid's head open like my kid, have you seen her eye? Did you see her eye?
Dutch did, and then she went back to show me, and she couldn't find it. But I know you had told me that she had a little bit of an accident.
Yeah, she's so like you carry the kid out to the car seat, and her grandfather was carrying her out to put her in the car seat, and he slips, and the kid's like, already kind of in the car, but like gets the rug burn on her face or whatever from the car upholstery, and so like she looked like she was like fighting MMA. And that was like 2 weeks after she got stitches up here for like face planting on a grate outside. I'm like, Jesus Christ, kid, like, let's keep your brains inside your head, at least until I die, please. Can we and I'm not going to make it till 100. We all know this. I'm diabetic. Like, come on. Like, I'm hoping I got 3 decades left. Maybe 4, but probably 3. If I got 3 decades left, can you just keep your brains inside your skull until you're like 33 and I'm gone? And then you do whatever you want because I'll be gone. I'll be watching you from hell. But so she looked like she joined a baby fight club, and that's just like my mom was like, what happened to her eye? I was like, she talked back. Because I joke about it. I would never, ever raise my hand to any of the women in my life, right? My wife, I'll hit my mom, actually. She's pretty tough. But my wife, my daughter, I would never, but I'll joke about it. I'll joke about it all day long.
I've met your wife.
I was like,
I've met your wife. I've shared space with your wife. I've shared hugs with your wife. I know your wife, and your wife wouldn't stand for that. Your wife would cut your fucking throat, player.
Yeah, that's not a thing that she is going to tolerate in her life. She has this thing called standards, which is still kind of weird that she married me.
Boy, you said it before I could even think it.
I mean, She's got this thing called standards. I have no idea how I met them, but joke's on her.
I just had the start of that thought pop into my head, and you already had it out. God damn it! And you ain't even on Alpha Brain. Go to onnit.com.
Yeah, no, I wrote that down 3 days ago. So.
He showed me the paper
on my note card right here. So,
Were you? My question to you was: were you in charge of your child when she face planted in the grate? Was it just you, or was it an accident that you both had, or were you on daddy duty? Because like I've said, Dutch is out of town, and I'm solo dadding it for the week or for the weekend. And my oldest, he doesn't care. I mean, like he's doing his thing. He's in there Fortniting or fucking whatever he's doing, talking to his friends. He comes out, I feed him. He goes back in there. I don't see him. The little one is still very much attached to mom. And it was she left on Friday after work. So Thursday night, she was like, hey, when I take you guys to school in the morning, I'm not going to see you. So like, she's getting them prepared for it. And the old one says, Logan, he says to my youngest, Lucas, he says, oh man, mom's going to be gone for 4 days. What are you going to do? You don't even like dad.
Oh, that hurts a little bit, right?
Shit, dude. Even if you're kidding, why are you saying that? Dude?
Yeah, there's some stuff. Honestly, I'm like a George Carlin guy. Like you can joke about anything, right? That's one of those things though that like fucking stings a little bit. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you didn't like me? What did I do besides like bring you into this world and pay for everything that you've ever done or eaten or like that health insurance that helps keep you alive? I can work for that. I suck up my pride every day so that you can have like a halfway decent future, and you don't even like me? What are you talking about? I'm so much more like this kid doesn't even know. I'm so much more fun than her mom. So much more fun. And she doesn't even know. She can't even appreciate yet. She's too young to appreciate the 80s movies references that are constantly spilling out of my mouth. We're listening to gangster rap from the 90s together. My kid, that's the thing, is that kids take shit for granted. They take shit. They just like, they're like, everything's just, I kind of feel like you should grow up. I feel like the best people are the ones who grew up kind of feral, like out on their own, taking care of themselves.
Absolutely.
Like, how many kids do you adopt from like Somalia? Some like impoverished East African nation, the Congo or something like that. You're going to adopt some kid from Laos who has never had shoes before, and he's 17 and a half, and he's never had shoes. You're going to adopt that kid, and he's going to appreciate every grain of rice you ever give him. You're going to make him a bowl of rice, and that's like a side dish, and he's going to like get down on his knees and shine your shoes and be like, thank you, Father. I'm like, it's just rice. Okay. The dish is coming. I'm about to pull the main dish out. Okay. It's okay. We're about to have, and he's going to be like, everything's so good. I'm cleaning the floors, and I just appreciate this life you've given me because you adopted this poor kid, and he had to live the first 8 years of his life in a like a hole in the ground that someone dug. Right. And when it rained, his whole house would flood, and then you give him a life, and he's like, holy shit, now I have an iPad? Like, what? Like, it's just going to be mind blown. And I feel like this applies to, I'm not just talking about my kid. I'm not just talking about your kids. I'm talking about Americans in general. I'm talking about adult Americans too. It's like
humans, people. Because I know where you're going with this. This is something that DJ and I were talking about the other day when I told him the story about the you don't even like dad. It's because it was like, we try so hard to give them everything now because, of what we went through. So we try to say, hey, didn't it suck when we didn't have anything and we were bored and we did this? So here, we're going to give you all this extra shit, and I'm going to show you that I love you, not only through my actions, but what I could provide to you. And then they grow up to be entitled little shits. No matter what you do to try to steer the ship and instill values in them, they still are going to grow up to be entitled little shits. And it's like I told them, I was like, we're going to come through to a generation of people where like, because I do firmly believe that like if you grow up privileged and have everything taken care of, you're not going to be a funny or interesting or fucking any kind of person like that we are, like our tribe, our circle that we all gravitate to. We all have checkered pasts, and I feel like that's why we mesh so well together. You're going to get cookie cutter fucking people coming out. Like, imagine what comedy's going to be like. You know what I mean? Imagine what comedy's going to be like in fucking 2 decades with all these kids grow up.
I feel bad for comedy already. I feel like and I'm sure every generation says this. I'm sure 40 years ago, there was a 40-year-old saying this shit, this very same shit coming out their mouth.
Sure.
It happens with every generation. You could trace it back to ancient Greeks. There's like ancient Greek writing where they're like the ancient Greeks are talking about kids these days. You know, they're like kids these days. They're into that new, I don't know, that new thing, the discus that just came out last year or whatever, like the shot put, like some shit, the javelin that's been around forever. These kids won't quit playing with the javelin. Just like we talked about, 40 years ago, somebody was like, these kids won't quit playing Donkey Kong. And 30 years ago, these kids won't quit playing Mortal Kombat. It's ridiculous. It's like there's always something. So I appreciate that somebody's going to hear this and think it's pedantic that he's complaining about this when every generation does. But I worry about that. I really do worry about that, just because people get you can't joke anymore. You can't tell a joke. You can't tell a joke anymore, because if you do, then everyone's like, holy shit, pull your pants back up. We're in the office. Why do you have your dick out in the office? Like that guy who showed up on that Zoom meeting like last year, right? He like shows up on the Zoom meeting with no pants on, and his penis is hanging out, and you can see all his junk. And he's not even like, if you're gonna do that, that's a fucking move, because this guy's not in any way, shape, or form fit. If you're fit and you show up naked on a Zoom, everyone's kind of like, oh, well, he's showing off. I mean, he's got abs down to past his belly button. I mean, this guy's got abs touching his balls.
Full dick root.
Yeah, but this guy was like not even like, he's like hairy. He's like very chubby. His penis wasn't very, like, it was just.
You legit could just say he was you. He looked like you.
Fuck you.
No, me.
Oh, no. I mean, plus, no. I imagine you look much better naked than he did. I
appreciate the fact that you imagine me naked.
I do every night before I fall asleep.
Well, you know what? That is when your brain is in the theta state, and that is when you are most open to new thoughts and new ideas to reprogram yourself. So if you do that just before you fall asleep, chances are that down the line sometime you might actually approach me for some sort of homosexual polyamorous relationship. I mean, like, not that you haven't already, but I mean in a serious fashion rather than just a joke for a podcast.
Yeah. So how do you feel about you and Dutchie meeting me and Christina in the Jacksonville landing? We're gonna get a nice room at the Omni Hotel. We're gonna get a really nice room at the Omni Hotel. Really big bed, just one big like king size we can all fit in.
Or two, and then we could push them together. Just one big
there's
sheet.
An idea.
One big sheet.
How about we just get the beds removed and we just do like a Dexter kill room, just plastic everywhere, just so that we don't ruin the place with our fluids.
We want to ruin it though. You know what? From time to time we get questions on the show, and we didn't do an episode last week, so I've had a couple of them pile up, and I wanted to hit you. Well, this one I think was aimed at Dutch as well as me, but since you're here and you're a dad, you can relate. We have a listener named Bree that gets into my DMs quite a little bit, and we were talking. And she said a couple episodes ago, like one of the kids actually interrupted us and came in here, and I left it all in. I left the audio in because I was on some fucking shit that day. And she was telling me how she likes to hear our kids, and it makes it more personal, and like she feels like she knows us and this and that. And I usually get a little agitated because I'm the producer of this show and I'm the one that's thinking about the editing and all that shit.
We're trying to keep the show on the rails. No one else is even all those what we were talking about a minute ago, all the entitled little shits. They don't care about you trying to keep a train on the rails because they're like, Dad, fix the Xbox that you gave me, like kicking the door open and stuff.
That's exactly what it is.
I get it 100%. I totally understand. And then you just want to savagely beat everyone. And everyone's like, why are you in a bad mood? And I'm all like, hold on. Do you live with you? Because I live with you. Okay. Well, I appreciate Brie because I agree with her. Like, people like the fact that podcasts are like real life. They like the fact that you're recording. You're not in some fancy recording studio downtown that's paid for by like Warner Brothers or some shit. You've got your kids in the other room. My kid is upstairs. She could come barreling in here crying, screaming at any moment.
And through the magic of editing, 90% of the time you'll never know. But, sometimes I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. They came in, it happened, so it's here.
Yeah. It's part of our lives now.
The question was what is the thing that's gotten you the most mad at your kids?
Ooh.
Have they done anything that's really just sent you off the rails? And I thought about this a little bit, and there hasn't been anything that my kids have done to me that has gotten me so upset at them. Like there's always little things, and it's usually because I'm stressed out that I flip out on them. It's not what they've done. It's not anything that they're doing to me. And I struggled to find an answer for this question. So I was like, I think that that's a pretty good thing that they haven't done anything to me. But then again, listeners have heard that our newest show on the Inner Circle, the Untrained Eye DJ, has become somewhat of my work wife. We talk on the phone all day while we're at work. And I told him about this. And we were talking about when we were younger, and I asked him a question that I think about, and it's, as a young boy, you can relate to this too. As a young boy, did you go through a phase when you were a shoplifter?
Really briefly, yeah. As like an adolescent, like 12, 13.
Because I related this question, but I don't mean to cut you off, but I related this question back to me and what I would have done to my mom. And I think the worst thing was when I went through my shoplifting phase and my kleptomaniac phase. And it was around the period of time where my oldest is at now. So I'm like, shit, I hope he doesn't fucking follow in my footsteps or anything.
No.
But I mean, like, serious type shit. Like, not only like stealing from stores, but like I was like fucking slipping 20s from my uncle and like, you know, all kinds of shit. Like it went dark and I got my ass
like
destroyed.
Crackhead. That's like the crackhead shit. Like I'm going to steal from my own family because I like comic books. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. I really was into fucking comic books, and I'm like, I have to go to the fucking, because it was a comic book store back then with like arcade machines and everything. So I'm like, not only do I have to play NBA Jam, but I have to get all my comic books, and I have no money. What am I going to do? Yeah, that's the best, man. The old comic book shops.
But that was the worst thing I ever did to my mom. My mom whooped my ass when she found out about all that shit. And I mean, like, I've gotten in trouble stealing from the stores when I was a kid, so the cops were called. I got caught stealing from my family, so that was a whole thing. It was like a black sheep type scenario where you're not allowed at grandma's house anymore. And yeah, I got my ass whooped.
Damn, son. Ooh, yeah. For me, the family was always off limits. I wasn't going to fuck with the fam. You know what I'm saying? Like mafia rules, you know what I'm saying? Like you just don't like.
Even at an early age,
don't fuck with the fam. Don't fuck with the ants. It's like, I don't know if it was something that I consciously thought about or if it was just like, I just had this sort of instinct, like don't bite the hand that feeds. Like these are the people that take care of you. Don't fuck with them too hard. But if it's an outsider, if it's somebody like, I see, for me, it was always like, it's that mentality that a lot of adults these days have too, actually, where it's like, I don't care about something that's like nameless and faceless, like a large corporation. Like Coca-Cola's got plenty of money. If I happen upon the Coca-Cola truck and he's unloading and he's inside, dude, and I can just grab a case of Diet Coke, like who cares? Because like it doesn't come out of this guy's pocket. I'm not hurting his kids, and the Coca-Cola company is like $1 billion company. I'm gonna miss like 2 cases, 3 cases, 4 cases, whatever I can get in my trunk real fast. They're not gonna miss that shit.
Two things on that. As someone that has used to in their life, I was a driver. I've been a driver for Coke, for Pepsi, for Budweiser, for Miller. If it comes in a can or a bottle and you can drink it, chances are I've delivered it on a truck. And I'm here to tell you that when they take cases from you, that comes out of the route driver's paycheck. That doesn't come out of Coke. Because I've had to pay for fucking cases of beer that people have stolen from my truck before. So that's number one.
How wrong I was.
That's number one, and that just shows to the greediness from the top too. You know that they've got millions upon billions, and you're going paycheck to paycheck. But hey, we're going to hit you for $30 because someone took a case of beer off of your fucking truck.
Yeah, they're going to lean on you when it's like, you guys have the deep pockets. Why you got to lean on me? And it's just because you're replaceable. You know, they look at you and they think you're a driver. I can find some other chimpanzee to drive this fucking 100%. Truck. But
the second
kids drop out of high school. Kids drop out of high school every year, and you know, Coca-Cola, you know, Pepsi, you know, Anheuser-Busch, whoever is just looking at them kids like it's just another one that could drive the truck. So
you're 100% right.
Yeah, they don't care because it's like you're replaceable. And that's a terrible feeling to try to live with. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like, I don't feel replaceable. I feel like a unique human being. I feel like I'm different than everyone else, at least in some ways. I'm similar to other people in a lot of ways, but in some ways I am my own unique person, human being. But company doesn't value that. Why would they value that? Can you drive the truck? Can you go unload it?
Yeah.
Just ridiculous that they would make you pay for that. But that shows you, like, even I assumed that like a big corporation has to understand that there are going to be losses. Like it's not always going to be catastrophic, like the whole plant burns down and you lose all the equipment and the inventory. But there's always going to be waste. This thing fell off the line and broke. Okay, whatever. Sweep it up and we keep moving.
Sure.
You got to expect that there's always going to be that little bit of, and you build it into whatever your metrics are. Like whatever they charge me for this Coke, I presume that a fraction of a penny of what I paid for this Diet Coke went to pay for whatever waste that they had. Oh, this water spilled or whatever, so we can't use that carbonated water. So whatever, we pay for it. But you assume that they're going to take care of the stuff all the way to the store too. But
oh, hell no. But
that's why stealing is such a shitty thing to do, because it's like you're making an assumption that this big company can just handle it. But what you're not thinking is that this company might be an asshole about it. They might lean on the guy, and be like, hey, it got stolen on your watch. It's your fault. How do we know you didn't take it, you son of a bitch?
Well, exactly. And for this situation, I believe now, as a spiritual being that that I am, that was just me paying my karmic debt. Because the second thing that I had to tell you was, I don't know if you remember this or if I've even said this on the podcast before, but when I was a young man in my late teens and I had my own apartment, I had a gentleman that slept on my couch. We actually referred to him as the guy that lived on my couch. And we used to go out and we would terrorize our town, because we were in a small town in Illinois, suburb of Chicago, not really densely populated. It was actually pretty wooded, to be honest with you. It reminds me about like your area. And we would go out and just fuck with shit. And one of our times we were walking through the neighborhood at fucking 3 or 4 in the morning or whatever, half in the bag with a backpack full of cans and shit, just fucking shit up. The guy making the delivery at the little convenience store for bread was parked on the side of the thing. And it's not, what, do we need bread? What is this? Are we like you said, are we in fucking Egypt? Or are we trying to steal loaves of bread to feed our family? But there was a truck left unattended, and we said, hey, let's go get some fucking bread. And we were in the back of this fucking bread truck. Well, he was in the back. I was standing outside kind of doing the lookout thing, and the son of a bitch came out while he was in the truck, and he just grabbed the biggest bag of fucking like bread rolls, like hoagie rolls he could like get his hands on, and we ran from that fucking guy. And I swear to God, we hid in some bushes till the fucking sun came up, and that son of a bitch was circling through the neighborhood looking. And I'm like, because he has to pay for it. I'm sure that's going to come out of his
get his
now.
baguettes back. You know what I'm saying? He's like, dude.
That's going to come out of his shit now.
French loaf, man. That's going to cost me $4.
And then all those years later,
$4 French loaf, motherfucker. I'm going to find you.
Well, and then all those years later, when I'm in the other side of the coin, and then someone does it to me, I'm like, okay, my fucking karmic debt is paid. Yeah. I took from him, they take from me. All is right in the world.
Yeah, it balances, man, because it doesn't feel good to have your shit stolen from you. I had of course, you do stuff like that. Like we did stuff like that, man. I jimmied. I went to go see the movie Princess Mononoke.
You
when
saw
it was
that
out
in the theater?
I saw it in the theaters when it was brand new.
Oh, fuck,
yeah, so
dude.
I went to a downtown. It was one of these like independent, because it didn't get like a huge release, but yeah, I went to see it when it was in theaters, and it was one of these like small art, like independent cinema things. And so I'm walking out of the movie with my buddy Jimmy. It was my buddy Jimmy went to go see this shit with me, and I noticed that the case of where they have the movie poster and they have it like lit up on the outside, on the outside of the building, the case is like kind of loose. And I had like this little key, and it was like for a locker or whatever, those like small keys you have. Yeah. And so I was like, I wonder, and I slid it in, and slides in, and of course it's not the right key, but it had activated some of the tumblers, so it turned part of the way. Like I couldn't completely unlock the thing, but it turned part of the way, and like the thing, like the whole bottom part opened. It was like the top corner. It was like the top corner that was still locked. So it like opened enough that it was like quite easy for me to like reach in, remove the movie poster for Princess Mononoke, and I sprint. And Jimmy like didn't realize I was doing that or whatever. He looks back, and I'm just like running, and I'm holding the movie poster, and I'm just like booking it, right? Because I'm like, I just jacked the movie poster. It's like the official ones that are like two-sided and stuff, because they light them from the back, and it's like the heavy paper. It was like quality Princess Mononoke movie poster. I think I still have it somewhere.
I was just gonna say, where is it, dude? You have to.
I gotta dig that out and hang that up just to show my daughter, like, I stole that. But I go booking it. We book it back to my car. We jump in. We run, because I didn't know if anybody saw me. I was like out in front of this movie theater, right? They don't have cameras or whatever. This is like late 90s, so I'm not worried about like I'm on somebody's Nest cam or something like that, and they can zoom in on my face. But I didn't know if somebody saw me or whatever. If they see me get in my car, they take down my license plate. I was going to get in some high speed chase like fucking O.J. Simpson over a Princess Mononoke poster. But anyway, we book it. We hit the road. Everything's all good. And as we're pulling back around, and we're driving like past the movie theater to like get back on the highway or whatever, there's this dude, and he works there, and he's looking quizzically at this empty. He's like, how the fuck did this guy get the poster out of here? He's like opening the bottom. He's like seeing how loose it is, and he's just like, he's got this look on his face like, what the fuck, man? Like, dude, what the fuck, man? Come on. They send us one of these. We need this thing so people will see that we're showing Princess Mononoke, and this asshole runs off with it. So, I mean, look, I did that shit, but it came around back to me too. Like, I had that karmic shit happen where I had like a change cup, and I was out of town one weekend. This is when I was living with my roommates in college. And this, one of my roommates has his friend over. His friend brings another guy that we don't know, and he's a total douchebag. He crashes in my room, clears out my whole change cup, and I had like $30 worth of change in there. It was like a pretty big cup, and it was pretty full. And once it got full, I would take it to the Coinstar or whatever and get my $30. Dude cleared the whole thing out. I came home, and I noticed it like 2 days later. I was like, dude, my cup. I would go to throw some change in. I'm like, dude, this was full. Like, I was getting ready to take this to the Coinstar. It was full. Yeah. I had like $25-$30 in there. Boom, nothing. The guy just dumps the change, just took all my change, took $30. I'm like, dude, I mean, I'm not quite the same as like reaching into my wallet and taking a 50 out of there, but like,
pretty close.
It's a violation, man. You're going to stay in my space. And I didn't know somebody was going to sleep in my room, like I didn't know that you were going to have a friend over and he was going to bring a douchebag and you were just going to let him sleep in my room. But like that, I was like, dude, that was bring this guy around again, and I'm gonna fuck him up. I'm just saying.
Part of the problem with that was part of the problem with that time period when I had the dude living on my couch, because at that time I started dating Dutch, so I was spending a lot of time going to see her, traveling across the border to Indiana and like hanging out at her spot at her mom's house. So I'm leaving my apartment to, the guy on the couch and his devices. And I can't tell you how many times I came home, like Dutch and I'll have dinner and I'm like, well, let's just sleep at my house tonight. And we'll be coming in and he's sitting in the living room with 3 random chicks and some fucking guy, and they're all, getting high and fucking, doing, using my shit and doing whatever they're fucking doing. And I'm like, who are these people even? And then like CDs come up missing and fucking, like you said, I had a big ass bottle for my change. It was like almost like a bottled water thing, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, one of those big ones.
The big jugs, yeah. And the same fucking thing, dude. People were always hitting that. I mean, like, it's tough, dude, when you're 20.
That's part of growing up. That's part of being young. Like, you just you have a couple college roommates, and it's like, I know this guy pretty good, but I don't know his buddy. And if his buddy starts bringing people around, I definitely don't know those motherfuckers.
And they don't give a shit about you.
Like, you want to be hospitable. You're like, this guy lives on my couch after all. Like, I should be nice to the people that he brings in. But it's like, I don't know. You get to a point in your life where that's another thing about being a little older is like your tolerance for that kind of thing goes down a little bit. And you're like, look, I want to be hospitable to people when they come over. Like, I want to be a good host, and I always want to like, can I get you something to drink? And let me, we're gonna make this food, and I want to feed everybody, and I want everyone to have a great time. I want everyone to leave my place saying that Jason guy is fucking awesome. It's part of my need for validation, but I want everyone to leave thinking how awesome I am. But at the same time, like, you can't have that. Like, if I come over and I'm like, strangers are fucking playing my GameCube, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, get your grimy hands. Like, I can see the pizza grease on your thumb. You're using my favorite GameCube controller.
Well, it was Nintendo 64 at this time, but same.
Yeah.
That was always the problem, though. Like, I would even like not walking in with Dutch and seeing 3 random fucking chicks, and then she's looking at me like, who are these bitches? But like coming home from work, same fucking shit, and then like, this dude and like 2 other guys are getting high and they're playing NHL 96 or whatever the fuck. And I'm like, I want to play fucking NHL 96, and you're on my shit. What the fuck, man? We actually had to move. We had to get out of that apartment. We had to move to be done with him. Dutch was like, let's get our own place. And he's not invited.
Yeah. That's what you got to do sometimes. You got to make a clean break. What do you think I moved 1,100 miles away from Atlanta for? I was like, I got to shake you fuckers off. I just got to get out of here. I'm going to go move up to north of Boston, and I'm going to live up there in the cold, and none of y'all are going to know my address. I'm not telling nobody. I'm not leaving a change of address form with the post office. You guys can all kiss my ass. I'm going to take all of my movies, whatever I got left that you guys didn't steal from me, and my video games, and I'm going to go up north.
But see, and then that's a shame now because look at now all these years later, and we could just shoot up there after work on a Friday and fucking hang out with you all weekend and be on the way back home now, like my wife is.
Yeah. There are a lot of things that I miss about living in Atlanta for sure. Like the general absence of ice everywhere is definitely something that I miss. And like I was saying earlier, like we get to this time of year, Christina and I, and we're looking at each other like, why did we leave Atlanta? But we're also looking at each other like, we need to schedule a vacation for February because this is the time of year that we're kind of sick and tired of the weather. It's nice in December because you feel all Christmassy. So when it starts to snow and it's like December 20th, you're like, yeah, white Christmas, but
dude,
when it's
do you remember when I was there the week before Christmas and it snowed that Sunday and I legit stood in front of your window for like probably cumulatively a couple of hours watching it snow because I hadn't seen it fucking snow in X amount of years.
Were you looking out the back where the trees? Yeah, because it's beautiful. Like those trees get hit, and it's like they all get like frosted, and they're white, and you can see the Cochico River going.
Right there on the banks, of the Cochico, dude.
There's an old mattress out there, and you're like, oh, look at that old mattress getting covered with. Look at that. There's actually the corpse of a homeless man on that old mattress getting covered with snow right now. I bet there's so many needles right around that mattress because it's Rochester. What do you want from me? Yeah, it's one of those things where we look at each other, and I'm like. I told her the other day because it's like still ice. It's after Valentine's Day. Like I'm done with this shit. I'm like, where's spring? I need some warm weather. I'm tired of wearing 5 layers to leave the house to get my mail. So I look at her. And I'm like, can we start planning a trip down to Florida, visit the Wutskis? Like, let's just plan something. Let's just go down there. Like, we'll figure something out. Oh.
Well, something else you said earlier too, and I thought it was a good segue at the time, but I did want to get this. Yeah. I want to answer my girl Bree. Thank you again for hitting me up. I do love it when listeners hit us up. One, because like Jason, I have a need for validation, and two, it lets me know that we're not just shouting out into the void. So
nice. Brie is my favorite kind of cheese, by the way. If you want to say that,
very fancy. I'm not surprised.
I like to spread Brie on a cracker. You know what I'm saying?
But if you're listening to anything that we're saying and you want to reach out to any of us, we are HTNOS@yahoo.com, HTNOS on all the socials. Just hit me up, man, and ask whatever you want to ask, and we'll shout you out on the show.
Ask me anything. I've never gotten mad at a question before. I've never, ever gotten upset with someone for asking me a question.
I'm essentially an open book. Like, we don't do
that too. There's some questions that I won't answer. If someone hits me up and is like, yo, what's your social security number? I'm trying to steal your identity. I'm going to be like, no, I'm not going to answer that question. I would decline. But you can ask me. I'm not going to get offended. I will decline that request politely, sir. Please no. Mr. Nigerian Prince, I would not like for you to steal my identity today. Thank you, but no. I don't ever get mad at someone asking me a question. It's like I feel like that's maybe my old school thing. Like people get upset when you ask them like, how much money do you make and how much did your house cost? I don't know. I don't ask those questions either because that's just not, you're taught that those aren't polite questions to ask. But I've never been mad at somebody for asking me a question before.
Well, see, and I don't think, and this is a problem with myself, but I don't want to say it like this, but like the way that I originally was going to verbalize this was I don't think too highly of my situation, which isn't what I meant. But like when I'm saying things like that, if I happen to say I make X amount of dollars per year, it's not because I'm flexing. It's like because it's in relation to what I'm talking, like what I'm gonna say. If I'm fearing for my job and I'm trying to toss around different ideas, what could I do? Because like maybe I might not have employment next week, and I say, well, I make this amount per year, and I need to walk in as an unskilled fuckface to another place to make that much money, and how can I do that?
Because I got a nut, and we got to make our nut every month.
Exactly, and that again is me essentially setting up what you are kind of here to talk about today.
Yeah,
that's the situation that you're currently going through in your.
I feel like you got a lot of the same impulses that I do. Is like sometimes, and it may be just like being the man of the house, that you're like a provider and you got dependents that you need to like, you have to be concerned about their well-being and their welfare. And it's like, some days I know you're like me, you just want to just like look around and you're like, none of this shit means anything to me. It's all just stuff. Like, I just want to go live in the woods and be a Buddhist. Like, you hear those stories about the Tibetan monks. Like, these guys just look at a wall all day. I got Netflix, I got Hulu, I got Amazon, I got Disney Plus, I got Disney Minus, I got AMC. octahedron. I got everything. I got every geometrical shape that you could possibly stream on. And I've got, despite all of this entertainment, it's just, I feel empty inside. And it seems like this weird Tibetan guy whose roommate is a yak, who looks at the wall all day and meditates, has such a much more fulfilling life because he doesn't have all this shit to worry about. Don't you just want to like cut all of your everything to worry about? You worry about this monthly nut. Why? Because you got a mortgage, because you got a car payment, because you got insurance co-pays, because you got a premium you got to. But it's like you look around, you're like, do I need half of this shit? Do I even need? Can I get rid of half of this shit and then just I don't have to worry about making X amount of dollars per pay period? You know what I mean? Like
that's a thing, dude. I've hit you up. I've hit you up personally, and we've had talks about it because I know you have history at the Patala Palace and all that.
Every time you do, I'm like, man, I could have been. I was at the Patala Palace 20 years ago. This year, I was at the Patala Palace 20 years ago, and I could have spent the last 20 years at that fucking potato palace.
Dude. I said to you recently, I'm like, part of me just wants to show up on the doorstep of someplace on a fucking mountain like Doctor Strange, banging on the door saying, take me and teach me how to fucking contact the other realms. I'm going to live here now with nothing but the shirt on my back, which is an official shirt, by the way. Vibes.
Official, yeah, because I would show up. If I just showed up with a shirt on my back, I'm making sure it's an official shirt, 100%. Because that's just good fucking high quality. And if I got to wander around the streets of Nepal for a little while, I want something high quality on my back that's going to last, because this is my one shirt. It needs to last. It's not disposable anymore.
Absolutely.
I'm with you, though. I think for me, it's not so much that I want to like study the Akashic records or I want to have this like mystical thing. For me, it's like the more stuff you have, like we live in such a free society. Like we live in the freest, most liberal society where everybody has this like personal liberty. We all have, like, for Christ's sake, we have podcasts. Like we get to get on a podcast and record what we say and then put it out on the internet. Like we have a ridiculous amount of freedom. We can say whatever we want. Sure. You can talk mad shit about Joe Biden right now, publish it, and you don't have to worry that somebody who works for the government is going to kick your door down and drag you out of the house with a bag over your head at 3 a.m. because you said something about the president. That's how free we are. But at the same time, it's like we're so fettered by our own impulses to consume, and we're surrounded and bombarded constantly by these messages that we need to consume, that we got to drink Diet Coke, that we got to drink a certain beer because we're watching MMA, that we got to have 4 Xboxes. You need to buy the new Xbox. You bought a new Xbox 3 years ago. Okay, cool. It's been 3 years. Now there's a new Xbox 16. You got to buy that. And then you got to get all this stuff for your kids because your kids want all this stuff. And you got to get clothes and you got to get a pool and you need a new hot tub. So it's like you just get like, and then the world kind of puts this on us a little bit too, because we live in a consumer society and a lot of our economy runs because we elect to go buy a sandwich instead of just eating the rice we got in the fridge. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I feel like for me, the whole vibe of wanting to just like leave and like, just let me go like live in a mountain in Tibet is because I just don't want to be bothered by this shit. And it's like, I don't want to have to grind myself to death in a career that may or may not be fulfilling because I need money, because I got to keep this whole consumption train rolling. It's one thing if it's like we need food, we need shelter, right? But it's like I look around sometimes like, do I need half this shit? Like I'll be busting my wife's balls like, I want to get an 85-inch TV. And she's all like, hell no, I don't want to spend money on an 85-inch TV. And I'm like, 85-inch TV will be baller. And she's like, hell no, spending money is not baller. And then I'm like laying there in bed. I'm like, maybe she's right. Why am I all frustrated because she won't let me buy an 85-inch TV? I don't need an 85-inch TV. I got a 65-inch TV, and that shit didn't make me happy.
Well, like I tell you too, the higher you go, that's your threshold, because I got a 65 now, and nothing less than a 65 is going to ever do. So, yeah. and we're talking the same way. We're talking about 72s or fucking 80s.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you go down that rabbit hole, you're not coming out. But tell me a little bit about what's going on. I mean, I know a little bit about what's going on with you, but tell me and my listeners, what the deal is, because we've had some curious parties, some where's Jason's,
I've had a lot of like texts and stuff, like just where'd all your podcast episodes go? Like people would hit me up. So it's kind of nice that like people noticed on the one hand, right? But I can complain about anything. So it's like also not cool, because it's like,
Well, let's just say that the way you went about addressing this situation was total Jason Alme fashion, because you're doing.
What else am I going to do?
You're doing it in the most extra fucking way that you could do it. You're doing one thing on a Tuesday. Let's see who notices, and then someone does notice, and you're like, not gonna tell them. Let's do this on a Wednesday and see who else notices, and then everyone notices, and then you still don't tell them.
It's very interesting here to hear like how you perceive me, because it's like, this is probably how other people perceive me, but this is not how I perceive myself. Like, you make it sound like I got this plan, like I'm just
you do. You're very Machiavellian,
like, no,
dude.
For
You're
me, it's like I know I need to remove this material.
Well, start from
I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to talk about it. Like, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm not going to.
In doing so, you're making a big deal out of it.
See, that's the thing, though. I didn't say nothing. What, I got to go make some kind of announcement? Look,
well, you do. That's why you're here. So tell the fucking story. What are you doing, man?
Look, I mean, like I said, we live in like we have a ton of freedoms. But what I was saying earlier about like comedy, I worry about comedy too, is because those freedoms, like you're free to do what you want, right? But you're not free from consequences. Yes. And that's part of life. Like, you're free to say whatever you want. People always complain that, like, they complain about like woke politics. Like, I'm not free to go say bad words, or I can't say the N word on the internet. I'm like, well, you can, like, no one's stopping you. You're not going to go to jail for it, but you're going to have to face the social backlash of using racial and ethnic slurs. Like, you can't just go around talking like that and expect that everyone's just going to be like, oh, I respect his free speech, and I'm not going to say anything about him calling me a racial or ethnic slur. You're going to have consequences. But the thing is, like, you want to make sure that this shit is balanced. Like, if you're out there, like, I used a very hyperbolic example there, out there just yelling racial slurs. I'm not out there yelling racial slurs. I mean, I said retard once or twice by accident on my podcast, but look, it's not exactly the same thing as yelling a racial or ethnic slur at somebody. But the idea is that you can face these other repercussions. It doesn't have to be a jackbooted thug dragging you out of your bed at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night to disappear you at some kind of like a re-education camp because you said something about a government official who's in power. That's obviously what would happen under fascism or something like that, where you have a dictatorship and you misuse the media to talk shit about the guy in charge. He sends people after you. That doesn't happen here. We're in a very free society where you can say whatever you want, but you're still going to face this social backlash that I think is heightened by the internet. I think the internet has heightened this.
Yeah, 100%.
You can be, somebody can catch you doing something stupid, even if you don't mean to, or you're not intending to insult or offend anybody, but they catch you on the phone, they upload that shit, you tweet something, you didn't even mean it that way, but they take it the wrong way that you didn't mean, and then all of a sudden people are like, well, we gotta do something about this guy. He tweeted something that we don't like. And
well, not even that. Not even that, but then you have like factions of people that like we've talked about actually seek it out and hunt it out for the purpose of canceling people. And that and it may be off base, but that's kind of what I feel like is happening to you in your situation. I feel like somebody is actively seeking you out, knowing what your content is with the intention of canceling you. Yeah, for sure. Because what happens is, you know this, and I think even most listeners know this because they listen to podcasts all the time. You have a podcast, right? And then every podcast is labeled in the podcast app that you use. I label my RSS like at the RSS level. This is an explicit podcast. There's no mistake. Well, not only that, but you take it a step further because the title of your program is called Shit Happens When You Party Naked. So when you see that in letters on a screen and you still decide to click play and then are surprised by what you hear, that tells me that you were doing it for the specific sole purpose of fucking with that person. 100%. And that's how I interpret it as well. Is like, if you know me, in my personal life outside of podcasting, you know me from work or school or something like that. You're fucking sweetie pie, dude. You're fucking sweetie pie. Say what? I said, if you know you from work or school or whatever, they know you're a fucking sweetie pie, dude. You don't have a goddamn hateful bone in your body, dude. I don't. I mean, it is what it is. Like, people, when you know somebody, I think you're very forgiving of their mistakes. Like, you don't
no one ever tries to cancel their own brother or their own mom or something like that. Like, my mom's a Karen, I'm gonna air her out. You just like, you're like, yeah, my mom's a little bit of a Karen,
dude. Anymore though, I mean, like, that's even kind of out the window, because I mean, how many family members have stopped talking to each other over politics these past couple years? You know, like,
yeah, that's unfortunate too. For me, it's like, dude, just don't even, like, if you know that you don't, like, my uncle and me or whatever, we're gonna like argue about the Joe Biden or whatever, like, we don't have to talk. Yeah. There's so much other stuff we could talk about that it doesn't have to be. I think people are like wearing that shit too much. It's like, it's like, I am my politics, and I like, that's what's most important to me and about me. And if you don't agree with it, then you're basically like, you're not just disagreeing with me. You're like taking a whole different life. Like, I don't know, like, we could be friends. I'm Catholic, you're Muslim. We could be bros, man. You can come live with me. You can live next door to me, whatever. We could be bros, but don't you dare vote for Donald Trump, all right? Or something like that, where it's like, how is it that we can come together on all this different stuff, but like politics, like, no. And it's got to be something that, like, I have a right to get upset about what you think. Like, look, if you're not breaking any laws, you're not harming anybody. So that's part of the thing too. Is like, my podcast is called Shit Happens When You Party Naked. So if you know me and you don't know about the podcast, and you just happen to, let's say you just happen to Google Jason Alme, then you're going to stumble upon the podcast. I believe it's like the third or fourth link. So it's not even the first hit that you get. Actually,
the first hit is your amazing bodybuilder photos. So if anyone does want to see that internet gold, it's going to live forever.
But nobody complained. Not one single person has complained about me essentially being in my underwear online. Like, I'm essentially an underwear model in all of those bodybuilding pics. I'm wearing one small piece of cloth.
Doing blackface all over your dick, dude. Doing blackface all over your little dick.
Yeah, but it's not because it's not just the face. And it was for the purpose of...
Oh, no, your face looks fine. I said it was over your dick. There was extra darkness on your dick root because you did have many abs at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good for the ad. That was a good year.
Very dark and shaded.
Well, you got to get very dark and shaded when you live in the hood like me. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to blend in. I'm just trying to be accepted. It's part of my need for validation. I just want to be accepted by the community. So but yeah, it takes several clicks, right? I mean, I counted the other day, Jason Alme, that's 10 keystrokes. I'm including the space in between the N and the A for Alme. I'm not including holding the shift button, because I'm assuming people are going to search me with lower cases. Then you hit enter. That's actually your 11th click. You've got to find what you want to now. You got to like look through the results. I'm going to scroll. Oh, look, Shit Happens When You Party Naked. He does a podcast. That's kind of cool. I'm going to click that. That's the second click. Then you got to follow the link to whatever your podcast player is, right? iTunes or whatever you use on your phone or your computer. That's at least 3 clicks. The fourth click is when you hit play on the episode.
An episode, by the way, that, you know, not only the name of your show in and of itself, but each episode is titled something, either a funny thing from the episode, like we all do. We try to pull one-liners or whatever, and if it doesn't happen to produce a one-liner,
people in, something that zings a little bit that people might want to listen to.
Well, even if it doesn't happen to produce a one-liner, we come up with a title that kind of encapsulates what we talked about, and 9 times out of 10, it's to be funny or dirty or something like that. So then you're going to see the podcast called Shit Happens When You Party Naked, find the episode called, you know, The Time Jason Fucked a Priest in the Ass, and then click the play. I
don't have an episode for anybody listening. I do not have an episode called that. That's not at all one of my...
advocating the devil here, just for the sake of argument, all right? And then you see that, and you're like, and then you click play on that. So you're a layer within a layer. You're fucking Inception on trying to be, offended right now.
The idea is that you've opted in 4 times. Sure. When you click, you search, you click. By the time you're actually streaming a podcast, you've opted in 4 times because you took 4. There were voluntary actions of your thumb or your fingers or whatever. If you're using a mouse on a laptop or if you're using your phone, like most people do, you've clicked 4 times on purpose. That happens completely on purpose. That is not an accident. Okay. And you breeze past the part where the podcast is called Shit Happens When You Party Naked, and it is labeled explicit from day one. I had it labeled explicit. There's no situation in which you go into listening to my podcast and you didn't mean to do it, and you're not aware that the content could possibly be offensive. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 things that I've been very careful about from day one, because I knew I was going to be unfiltered. I knew I was going to shoot for whatever joke that I thought was good at the time, and I didn't want to have to worry about policing my own speech in the way that I do already with 23 other hours out of my day. When you're at school, when you're at work, you already have these sort of expected like behaviors. Like everyone expects for me to show up to class with my pants on and my genitals not outside of my pants. Everyone expects me to wear pants. When you go to a restaurant, no shirt, no shoes, no service. They don't say anything about pants because they expect that you're going to come in with stuff on your bottom. They don't even need to mention it because they expect that you're going to be wearing pants at the bare minimum, sweatpants, shorts, something. They don't mention it. No shirt, no shoes, no service means maybe this guy might try to come in here barefoot. But definitely we're not expecting him to come in no pants on because we expect you to wear pants. There's just an example of like when you go out into the world.
Depends on where you live, player. Because
if I went out into the world,
shit happening here all the time.
Well, I can understand that, but here it's both that. If somebody walks in to a McDonald's with no shoes on up here in February, their feet are like black. You know what I mean? Like that.
Frostbite.
Yeah, just nasty. Yeah, but
that
like you've already gone past all of this stuff. You've voluntarily listened to my episode. Now you're also like you're in a safe space, right? When you're at home, you're not in the world. You're like if I go out in the world and I come to where you work and I walk into your McDonald's and I got no pants on, you have a right to be upset with me because you're like I'm trying to eat my Big Mac and there's your genitals. You do have a right to be upset with me because I've then violated this code of conduct that everyone expects from a public place. Sure. If I'm at school and if I just run up behind you in the middle, you're sitting there taking notes and you're trying to do good in grad school. I run up behind you, just straight up assault you. I just roll the quarters in my fist and I just cold cock you right in the back of the head. You have every right to be upset with me because I've violated this code of conduct that you kind of expect from me, from my behavior when you're here in this public space. You're in a public university trying to learn something. So it's like you have a right to expect when you're out in certain venues, when you're out in certain places, the workplace. Obviously, the workplace is one of those, like the last several decades, companies go to great lengths to try to prevent unsafe workplace, and not just in terms of like falling into a vat of chemicals, but like they want the workplace to be free from things like harassment, discrimination, quid pro quo. There's a lot of stuff, and basically everybody has to go through these discrimination. I've been going through these like discrimination harassment once a year for like the last 25 years because it's just part of the corporate cultures. Like no company wants to get sued. They want to keep this like safe environment. So when you're at work, right, you have to behave a certain way. You can't tell the kind of jokes. You can't talk like I talk on my podcast when you're at work. But when I'm at home, if I'm in my privacy of my own home, obviously I can say whatever I want. You can't object. You can't put a cup up to the wall of my house and then you hear me say the F word and get mad at me for saying the F word, right? Because I'm in my zone. Podcast is a gray area because I put that on the internet. I publish that.
Well, I think that's the thing though too, is that a lot of people, podcasting is still semi new. I mean, like it's been around for years, and to us that are in the medium, it's not new, but for the larger scale, it's new to a lot of people. And a lot of people, when they think podcast, they think, oh, well, like who do I know? I know Joe Rogan. I know these celebrities that are on the mic. And then this guy that might sit 2 cubicles down at work from me, he does the same thing. And you get held to the same standard when realistically, we're just like, this is something we do outside of that. All of us inner circle guys, all of us in our level of podcasting, we have day jobs. Like this isn't how we make our income. I mean, it's supplemental in some cases, but I mean, like it's at the end of the day, it's not keeping anyone's lights on. So we all still do go to work, and that's why it's kind of fucked up that somebody would do that in your day job. To try to say, well, this is something you do at nighttime. I don't even know. Like in your case, I think you don't even know who this person is. So it's like, I don't know you. I don't know you personally. What is your beef with me? Why are you? Because like we're laughing and having fun on the internet, and this is something that I have a release for. That you're like, fuck you, stop that, because you're not. When you come to the office, you have to be buttoned up, and then, goddamn it, if you're not buttoned up when you go home, that's a problem too. Yeah.
So it's like, I feel you, because if you're gonna like, again, you go through all of these steps. I counted at least 4. Between finding out I have a podcast and listening to my podcast, and you blow past the warnings. By the time you're listening to it, I mean, at least from where I'm sitting, it's kind of on you. If you're offended at this point,
yes,
you have the right to be. I have an offensive podcast. It has always been offensive. And if someone says, my mom doesn't listen to my podcast because she says it's too offensive, funny. She doesn't want to hear me talking like that.
I was touched. I was so touched that she made it an hour into Creatures last time.
Creatures is a little different though, because Creatures is a little bit more focused on a topic that. So like it's not quite as scatological as
but when she commented an hour into that episode and was like, "Oh, this is so nice, so way less F words tonight."
She gave me F words that night. I was like, "Dang, Mom, thank you, being generous." I think I'm like wearing her down though. I'm breaking her down.
But even my podcast, dude, even my podcast, the title, it's #no offense. That's ironic because people see that and they're like, I've had people in the past come to me and they were like, well, is this some sort of like social justice type thing? And I'm like, no, it's totally ironic because when you hit play, you hear my at the time 9-year-old son come on and say that like we use strong language and it's intended for a mature audience. Like the whole premise of this is because we're going to say shit that you're probably not going to like.
Yeah.
I
think there should be a space for that. I think it should be well respected. Like it doesn't, to me, it's like you really want to like force that stuff into private as much as possible. Like if you're going to have a conversation, we shouldn't be having this conversation on the internet because it's like F words. We should be having this conversation on the phone where no one else can hear it. But at the same time, it's like blogs, social media. I mean, there's some precedent for like what a podcast is and how a podcast is published and made accessible, because it's not crazy dissimilar from like social media. I mean, I could record a social media video that's not entirely different than a podcast. It would just be like a video component. I could easily post that to my Facebook, which would then be associated with everything else that I'm connected to on my social media, like my priests and stuff. They'd be like, dude, I don't appreciate you posting this because like
the one from that episode.
But it's like how responsible do I have to be for making these people look bad? You know what I mean? It's like I think on the one hand, it's like can you say a workplace environment is unsafe and you feel like you're not safe in a workplace because of how I behave in the workplace? Makes total sense. But if it's like, I just don't like the way this guy talks when he's talking to his friends, and I don't like the fact that he published on the internet. I mean, that to me, that's a little bit different. But at the same time, it's like, well, okay, putting explicit on the label was not enough. And having to take to me, the biggest thing is it's comedic performance art, right? So I didn't come to where you live. I didn't show up in your office and start yelling obscenities and telling dick jokes. The fact of the matter is I created a place for it.
Yeah.
Right. That's completely, you don't have to visit. Another thing is I never mention work on my show. I never mention my day job. I don't talk about what I do. I don't talk about who I do it for. I don't talk about who I do it with. I don't talk about any of that. And the same thing goes for when I'm at work. I'm 100% professional. Nobody at work knows I have a podcast. I've never asked anybody at my work to listen to my podcast. I've never encouraged anybody to listen to my podcast. I've never told them I have a podcast. They don't know that about me. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's what the workplace requires. Like you can't be yourself at work anymore. Like you're just, everybody's this like buttoned up, very cleaned up version of themselves, because that's what a corporate environment requires to keep that environment safe. But that also means that none of y'all motherfuckers know me. None of y'all know me. You don't. So you can't be like, oh my gosh, I know the real Jason. You don't. You know a version of me that is very like, I'm going to behave a certain way because that's what's expected in the workplace. But you don't get to have the same right over me when I'm not there in the workplace. The workplace is going to be 100% professional and 100% safe. But like you can't, like if I've carved out a space for my other thoughts, why, just because I got the same name as this guy on the podcast? Like, right. Oh, well, this Jason Alme guy. Again, it's offensive, sure, but it's performance art, right? I think that qualifies. It's comedic performance art.
You handle yours differently than like say I do, because when I'm on the mic, when I'm off the mic, when I'm at work, when I'm at home, I'm typically the same person. Like this is just me with my thoughts. You on the mic are you're you, but it's magnified to like this exaggerated level to where the things you do and say on the mic definitely don't reflect how you are in the world.
It's like Stephen Colbert used to do the Colbert Report, and it used to be like, he was very like it was him. He's using his name, but it's like not him. It's not, he wasn't expressing his real ideas. I mean, he was being funny.
Yeah.
It was a job. He was cashing a check. And to some degree, I do the same thing. It's a job for me a little bit. I mean, it does, like you said, it doesn't pay the bills, but it supplements. So it's a job. I get a check. I'm performing the duties of that job, right? And it's sort of self-directed. So it's not like someone's telling me you need to say this type of thing or you need to make this type of joke. But at the same time, this is like the audience that I've found. And this is so I don't know. It comes down to another thing where it's like, if you worked at Hooters and I went to go visit you at Hooters because you worked at Hooters on the weekend. Me personally. Or anybody.
I worked at Hooters. Well, let's just say for the sake of this argument.
Can I say I don't like him wearing these short shorts and everything's tight and
that's like body shaming. That's body shaming, Jason. I fill those shorts and shirt out perfectly fine.
And it's disgusting to me. And
How dare you?
What I'm saying is that the analogy to me is like I'm doing something. I'm doing my own thing. It's a side gig for me. I'm making a little bit of money over here doing my thing. It has nothing to do with you. But as soon as I find out that you work at Hooters, I found out my coworker works at Hooters, and I don't realize that Hooters is what it is because I'm ignoring the name. Shit happens when you party naked. I'm ignoring all the warnings. I'm going to go to this Hooters place and visit my coworker because I found out they work there on Saturdays. And then I get there and I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. You're flaunting your body and you're reinforcing the patriarchy. And I'm so offended because all you're doing is you're using your looks and your body to make money. And I don't like that because I'm super feminist. And I see that you're just, you're engaging in all of these like fake rituals of like these mating and courtship rituals in order to get money out of these guys who are just horny and drinking beer. And it's disgusting. And I think the whole Hooters thing is disgusting, the way it uses women and the way that women are commodified. And I don't like it. It's disgusting. And I might feel that way, but do I have a right to go complain to your boss that you are participating in the patriarchy, that you're feeding into a misogynistic system, and that I don't feel safe in my workplace anymore because you breathe the same air as me? No, you're off doing your fucking thing at Hooters on the weekend. I don't have a right to complain about that. If I don't like it, guess what? I don't have to eat there. I don't have to bring any of my money to Hooters. I don't have to support that system that I hate the commodification of women. I hate that people are just turned into things at this type of place, and no one gets to know you. They're not even looking above your collarbone at Hooters. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I might have a legit beef with some of my coworkers working at Hooters, but I don't feel like I got any right to complain to my boss that they do something on the weekend that makes me feel a certain type of way. But that's exactly what happened to me. We've been dancing around it a little bit. We've been pussyfooting around it a little bit.
Well,
but that's
I've been trying to correct you, but goddammit, you're a little long-winded. And I think that anyone that knows you knows that this is performance, and you're just, when you're in front of a microphone, this is how you are. I'm constantly checking my time on the audio to see that we're in time, so we're good. But yeah,
we're going 3 hours today. It's Joe Rogan. Come on, let's do this.
That is what happened, and like it fucked with me because like you're so close to me, and I see that it's happening to you, and it is a very real possibility for all of us that do this for the same thing to have happened to them.
100%, yeah.
Luckily, the people that I've come in contact at my job that know that because I have the fucking logo with a microphone tattooed on my forearm, so I mean it's very obvious that I do this show. It says HTNOS on my fucking forearm. Okay, so like there are people at my work that have heard the podcast and listen, and I've been very fortunate that they enjoy it. And that they feel that they've gotten to know me better, and that, dealing with me at work has helped because they hear me on the podcast for an hour and a half or 2 hours a week for the last 3 years. You know what I mean? That's not the case for everybody, and that's unfortunate. And when I heard about this from you, like it fucking sucked, dude. Like it put me in like a weird headspace because I was worried about what was going on with you. I was worried that, I was going to lose one of my brother's shows, like the future hung in jeopardy, and I think you have a plan of action put into place. So like, what are you going to do going forward with your show in light of this attempt to assassinate you?
Yeah. I mean, it sucks, but then it's also, I don't know. I mean, it's like, try to view it as an opportunity. Like the part that bothers me is that it's not enough. I think I have a fundamental issue with, if you lay out a set of rules, whether this is a workplace or I've mentioned school too, because I do have concerns over like the general
Oh, well, you know what? Not to hijack you or cut you off right there, but it did. The story that came out in the week over the past week about the mom with the OnlyFans whose kids got expelled from school. Did you see that? Dude,
I did, and
it totally reminded me of this, and I was like, "That's perfect fucking timing." Well, I mean, not for them.
Well, look, I mean, like this lady's got an OnlyFans. She's making bank.
How about this? Over the last year, who doesn't have a fucking OnlyFans?
I know. I had to set one up.
Everybody's doing this shit, dude.
If I started doing the roids again and got ripped again, if I didn't care about like being alive when my daughter graduates,
gay for the pay, dude. Gay for the fucking pay. Do it, man.
I'm saying, man. I mean, dude, I'm just putting out pictures for everybody. But I think that resonated with me too, because it's like, how are you going to expel her kids just because she did something you don't like? Like that to me is even worse than what's happening to me. Like me, it's like, okay, you come after me because you don't like something that I did. You don't like basically you don't like my part-time job. Well, that's what it comes down to. You don't like my part-time job, so you're going to come after me. But you're not coming after me because I did anything wrong. She didn't break the law, and I didn't break the law.
Well, no. In her situation, she broke God's law because her kids were in a Catholic school.
But it's a moral thing.
Yes.
So that's the same thing with me. It's either you object on a moral grounds, and you also view me as a liability. So the whole thing is it's cover your ass. That's why a company, look, anybody that's canceled because they pissed someone off and they got enough people mad at them that are like tweeting about how evil they are. The reason James Gunn got fired from Guardians of the Galaxy originally,
social pressure. Exactly.
It's because Disney is like, well, we don't need the liability. Yeah. Now he's the liability, so we don't need the liability. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. Every corporation that doesn't want, a corporation, there's nothing a corporation fears more than litigation. Civil litigation, because somebody's suing me because I did something. We broke a law and now we're going to have to write a check. So liabilities look a lot like I'm going to have to write a check for this guy because he keeps sexually harassing all of his coworkers. That guy gets fired. But if that guy's not doing anything wrong, he didn't break any policy at work. He hasn't done anything at work. And then like this lady she made a buck getting naked on the internet. Like, come on, who wouldn't do that? If you could make what this lady was making, I heard what this lady was making on a monthly
$150K a month, dude.
Everybody's got a price.
Well, let me tell you too. I don't do the OnlyFans thing, so I don't know what her actual page looks like. But
I got no idea. I got no idea about OnlyFans. Like I've heard of it, and that's about it. I haven't looked into it. To me, it doesn't make sense. Like to me, it doesn't make sense. I'm going to give this person money because I like them and I want to like support them getting naked. Like that to me, it just doesn't make sense. But I don't have a problem with it.
No,
like
it's online stripping. I mean, like I've said before, with the
I don't have the energy to come after somebody because they do something online that has nothing to do with me that upsets me. I don't have the energy to go after people because I got enough stuff that I'm trying to accomplish in my life. I have a podcast. I'm trying to launch more podcasts. We'll talk about what the hell I'm doing with this whole situation in a second, but I'm trying to launch more podcasts. I'm on a PhD program. I'm trying to get even more educated than I am now. And of course, I work for a living so that I can support my family and stuff like that. I got enough stuff on my plate that if somebody somewhere does something to upset me that doesn't have anything to do with my life, if one of my coworkers is out on the internet doing something that I don't approve of, even though they didn't mention me, I've never once mentioned any of my coworkers on my podcast.
Right.
So they're not out there in the world talking anything about me, but I just don't happen to like what they're doing on some kind of moral ground. I don't have the energy for it. Even if I don't like it, I'm moving forward. I'm ignoring it and I'm going to focus on my shit. And this is not what's happening. And unfortunately, there's a large contingent of people who they're going to try to cancel you because they don't like what you're doing. And they understand that if they put pressure on whoever if you've got money, if you're Joe Rogan, you got plenty of money in the bank. You just tell everyone to kiss your ass, and it doesn't matter because you got fuck you money. Well, but if you're a normal human being like you or me, you don't got all of us independent podcasters. You could squeeze any of us real easy by just call up his. I'm going to call up his boss. I'm going to tell his boss that I don't like this person.
And that's the point I tried to make earlier is that we kind of get held to the same standard. Which I think that not to get too specific, but I think that Howard Stern was referenced to you in your situation. Yeah. Like, hey, if you think you're fucking Howard Stern, then by all means, then do your thing.
Howard Stern made $100 million, and so maybe you could go do that. But get the hell out of here.
But it's not. It's apples and oranges, though. It's not the same thing, and people in their mind don't equate that. Like this isn't radio. This isn't even fucking satellite radio. This isn't like we're not employees. We're not doing this for that, And people can't.
The idea is that for every Joe Rogan, he's probably a better example because he is a podcaster
Sure.
who did manage to get $100 million deal as well. But for every Joe Rogan, you have 750,000 other podcasters that don't make a buck. They just don't.
Put it to you like this. We've gotten into analytics before, okay? We've looked at our shows. We've looked at how we rank versus our peers and things like that. And as middling indie podcasters that do this shit in our spare time, we are in the top, I think 3% of all the 1 point whatever million podcasts are in production, and to be in the top 3% with our results is kind of like that tells the story right there, is that we are in the company of Joe Rogan, who is doing this, but even the difference between what he's doing and what we're doing are fucking there's miles in between us, but we're still that close together.
Well, it's a metaphor for the economy in general. I mean, there's been a lot over the last, I don't know, at least a decade since the Occupy Wall Street movement happened so long ago. But since then, there's been so much hyper focus on social media and even in the traditional media about the economic disparities, the people at the very top, and you'll read some kind of article that has statistics that say the 10 most rich men in the whole world, the 10 richest guys have more money than the bottom 50% of the whole world. When you're talking about you got one guy who's got more money, Bill Gates, let's say, he's got more money than all of India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Tibet put together, combined, Nepal. He's got more money than all of these human beings. There's 1 billion humans, and he's got more money than 1 billion people combined. That raises a lot of attention, but the idea is that there's a lot of industries that are like that, where if you are Joe Rogan or if you're Tom Brady, if you're at the top of an industry, you can make a ton of money. But if you're this industry is filled with people who are not at the top because there's only one top spot. So you can have this whole league full of NFL players that are second, third string, or they're guys that are maybe a little closer to retirement. They're not the Tom Brady's. They're not the Gronks that are coming out of retirement for one last, you know what I mean? Where it's they get all this attention, and of course they make all this money because they're the Super Bowl winners. They're champs. They got all the rings and stuff. You're talking about just a guy who he kicks the field goals. You know what I mean? It's it's easy to have a field where you think, man, these guys do so good. Man, if I could be an NFL player, right, I'd be set. I know NFL players. I don't know Tom Brady, but I know NFL players. I know a couple. I know a guy who used to play for the Falcons. And I mean, he did pretty well, right? It's not like they paid him peanuts. It's not like podcasting where you either make $100 million or zero, or you're in the negative because you bought all this equipment and you still make it zero, right?
Yeah.
But it's like that, where you can be at the top of a field and say, well, go make $100 million like Joe Rogan did. Look, I'm trying to make my first million, but I'll tell you, I mean, I'd do it if I could, that's one of them things where there's a pride. I like my job, right? That's another reason why I never talk about my job on a podcast, because I don't really have major complaints about what I do. I like what I do in general, but it's a job. There's always going to be the bad parts that are not as fun, or the rough days or whatever. It's a job. It's life. That's how it goes. But overall, I like my job. I like what I do. It works pretty well for me, and it's a decent lifestyle. But it's I don't know. I mean, who wouldn't take $100 million job? I'd take $100 million job shoveling shit out of the Cochico River right now. For $100 million, you do whatever. Okay, whatever.
Well, and now that somebody's threatening that, it's going to cause you to behave a little differently with what you do. So what are your plans? What are your plans?
Sure. I mean, I think it may be just because I've been a lifelong college student, and I've always been to me, learning it's an important trait of who people are, what we can do as human beings. We're not the strongest animals out there. You can't win a fist fight with a gorilla, because he's just going to tear you to shreds. But you can outsmart a gorilla, right? There's a reason why gorillas don't run the world and we do. It's because they got peanut brains and they don't learn like we do. So I always try to what is the most important thing about us? And it's the fact that we can learn a lesson. We can take that lesson in the future. So obviously 4 clicks plus an explicit rating plus a name called Shit Happens. It's not like, if I call it the Jason Alme Show, I can understand. You're like, this is a bait and switch. You called this the Jason Alme Show, and now you're just telling constant dick jokes. I don't like that. That was a bait and switch. You got me, motherfucker. But I didn't. I call it Shit
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that you're not Jason Alme at the Jason Alme Show at jasonalme.com.
The me show at me.com.
I'm surprised, dude.
It's funny. I did that.
Really shocking. It's really shocking.
Yeah. No, but the reason why I didn't actually, there was, I had considered it. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there. Shout out to Bobby Kudo Show. I love the Bobby Kudo Show. But the fact is, nobody knows who Bobby Kudo is. He's not, if you're Joe Rogan, you can have a show called The Joe Rogan Show. Because people know who Joe Rogan is. Right. He has a name that he's built for himself, a brand that he's built for himself outside of podcasting that he can then take to a podcast. So I think if you're some kind of expert at your field, then you can use your name as your podcast name, because people are like, oh, well, the Tony Robbins Show, it's going to be all about like motivation and self-improvement, because that's what Tony Robbins is about. So I'm going to click this podcast. I know what I'm getting. But if I call it the Jason Alme Show, you don't know what you're getting. It could be like a Sunday sermon where we're going to sing Kumbaya. I'm going to read a Bible verse. We're going to hold hands and it's going to be beautiful. Everyone's going to go to heaven when we die. But the fact is, it could be that, or it could be just complete filth flooring, which is what it was. And so at least I gave it a name that told everybody in the world it's out there. Like, this is what you're going to get from this show.
Well, you say was as in the past tense. So what are we doing with this vehicle? So
I got to take it behind Patreon. I mean, I have to implement yet another barrier to people finding me, because the reality is people can Google me. And people might. I mean, I'm going to apply for PhD programs, for postdocs. I'm going to be, one day I'm hoping to be teaching at a university level. But the fact is, people might Google me and then they might feel entitled to listen to other things that I do that aren't relevant at all. But they still might say, oh, I don't like this Jason guy, and we're not going to hire him, or we're not going to put him in our PhD postdoc program or whatever. So that's a reality. And so I got to take it behind a paywall. So
we're talking Patreon.
So yeah, it's the Team Alme Patreon. It has not launched yet, but it will. And so I'm moving the archive of all of my old shows. All of Shit Happens When You Party Naked is moving over to Patreon. That's going to be the main perk of becoming a patron. I hope that people will. I also kind of expect that I probably won't have the same listenership that I did when the show was like freely available. But at the same time, if I'm going to make an argument that this is a comedic performance art that I do as a side gig, and that you need to respect my hustle, then I do need to, I need to create this extra wall of sort of insulation where, it's not, a PhD program isn't going to see me as much of a liability for having that material and that content out there. So new episodes of Shit Happens When You Party Naked are going to post there as well. I'll live stream them on StreamYard and stuff like that too. I'll try to make them more of a hangout. There's going to be a Discord benefit to the Patreon as well. So you'll have access to the Discord where, of course, I'll connect that when I'm live streaming, and we can do like hangout shows too, where people can like come and just easily just drop in and be on Shit Happens When You Party Naked if they desire. So
I think that's the move for you. I mean, you and I have been discussing this over the last couple of weeks, pretty extensively, and you voiced maybe keeping it free because you don't want to put content behind a paywall, which I could appreciate. Me too.
I have feelings about that.
My thoughts have always been, if you like me, you should have access to me without having to pay me unless you want to, like if you want to do that in the form of supporting my sponsors, because then at least you get something, I get something, everybody wins. And I know your apprehension to go behind the paywall, but I think that is the better option when you're comparing it with, should I water myself down and do a PG version of Shit Happens When You Party Naked? Because everyone that has found you and has grown to love you would, I don't know, like that would be a slap in the face.
It's like new Coke. It's like new Coke. You know what I mean? It's like nobody wanted new Coke. We just want old Coke, and it's a failure, and you got to bring old Coke back. I understand. Like,
it would be a complete slap in the face. Anyone, because if you're going to go on there and start, I don't know who's a clean comic, like you're going to go on there and become Jim Gaffigan when you just were George Carlin. I mean, that's a big shift. So I think that anyone that is a fan of you and your show, which, I mean, you're a beloved folk hero in the podcast community. So I mean, like,
I don't believe it, but I appreciate you saying it.
I don't think anyone's going to have a problem throwing you $1 a month or whatever the fuck it's going to be.
Yeah, actually, it's going to be $3.50 per month. I'm sorry,
$3.50. So for the cost of a fucking Starbucks or less,
it's less than Starbucks. But the thing is, like, I have the same misgivings as you do about putting content behind a paywall, because it feels like it feels a little. I don't know. It always, to me, it feels like I'm like holding a change cup out. Like, come on. You know, but it's like those guys on the, you know, you walk past downtown and you get the guy out, you know, it's Friday night and he's like playing the guitar and people like throwing the money in the case or whatever. But it's like, I didn't really ask for this. And you're just like shaking your cup at me. So I don't know. I feel weird about it. But at the same time, like I want to give, so there's going to be merch too. Like every tier is going to have its own, there's going to be 3 tiers and there's going to be merch at each tier. So when you join, you're going to get at the bare minimum, you're going to get a sticker. You're going to get a Christmas card from me, like a physical thing. Cause I have a hard time taking money from people and not providing.
I get these things anyway from you. Make it more tangible. Come on. What am I getting? Jay? What am I
T-shirt. We're going to do T-shirt at the more expensive tier. And I'm thinking at the most expensive tier, I'm going to do like a box at Christmas. Like I'm going to send, like, you're not just going to get the Christmas card. Like I've always wanted to do like a box, like just pile up all the merch from that year. Maybe like if I talk about something on the show, I can include one of those. You know what I mean? Like I want to put a box together and send those out in early December. So it's like a little, you know, like a little gift. I've always wanted to do that. That's why I like sending out Christmas cards to everybody every year from the show. It's not like my own personal Christmas cards, like from my family. But it's like shit happens when you party naked Christmas card. I've always loved doing it just because it's like, thank you for listening to my show.
I keep those. You see behind me, my shelf there of like show related trinkets or whatever, you know, like I have them over there, you know, along with Kaz's fucking rap album and goddamn the Saturn Time Cube by Nick Hinton and every other thing that's pertinent to this show. I mean, all of my show accumulations are back there and you're featured prominently. But I don't think, I mean, maybe initially there will be a little shock just because, you know, like you have been, you know, made free for the last 3+ years, you know, so there might be a little bit of a like, ooh, but anyone that fucks with you they're not going to have a problem with it, dude.
I mean, that's what I'm hoping. And, you know, like I said, if I don't have quite the same listenership as I did before, at least it's like, I feel like the people that are there, like, no one's going to call my mom. No one's going to try to call my temple or whatever. Like no one's going to call my rabbi and try and complain about Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least it's like, if you're there, because I still contend, like, if you click 4 times on purpose to listen to my podcast, like you opted in. At that point, can you really, like, it's like open mic night. Can you be offended? Because you
know that you can, though. You know that in today's day and age, and they're making it more. And I say they, you know, but they're making it more and more acceptable for that to be an okay course of action. And it sucks, dude. But you know, we're forced to be nimble and adapt with the times. And I'm glad that you just didn't say, you know, like they're pushing back and they're threatening my livelihood, so I'm going to hang it up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's an option too, right? I mean, you think about these things. You're like, well, especially with how busy I am. Like, should I be like, you know, like I got all this recording time, all this time I spend recording and promoting. Like, it'd be like one less worry. Like, it'd be like one less thing to worry about, and I could just focus more on school. That time I could spend studying. I could have more time with my daughter. You know what I mean? It's like all those things. But on the other hand, I'm a bad contrarian. So it's like, as soon as you tell me not to do something, it's like all I can think about.
Well, not for nothing too, but like when this first happened, you told me personally, I don't want to quit because I don't know if you know this about me, but I need an audience. Yeah, no shit, dude.
Well, and that's part of moving to Patreon too that makes me a little nervous. Like, I'm going to wind up doing this for like half a dozen people, and it's not exactly like I wanted a bigger reach. But I think I mentioned earlier in passing that I'm going to launch a couple other podcasts. There's a few other podcasts that I've been wanting to do that I just, you know, like, time is premium, but I'm going to set some time aside for. They may not be as frequent as I wanted to, but they're going to be like, they're obviously going to be more focused. They're not going to be like a no holds barred comedy podcast. They're going to be one of them is going to be diabetes related. It's like personal stories. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I'm going to talk to other diabetics and like talk about it's something called narrative medicine. It's like part of that like part of the like treatment for folks, like, you know, hearing them out and like finding out where they are versus just like prescribing them something. So it's narrative medicine, and it's going to be very relevant to like diabetes personal experience with diabetes. So Duck Diabetes, I'm going to launch that one. Don't let all the pricks get you down. That's the tagline. Because if you're diabetic, right, you're pricking your fingers, you're taking injections. But it's more about like, what's the positive part of this? Like, don't let all the pricks get you down. So I'll launch that. And then, you can't be too offended by that. That'll be mostly clean. And then I'm going to do one that's kind of a passion project for me called Abakabu Cafe. And that's completely like Orange Road themed. It's like one of the only animes. I don't really like anime, but like there's one that I watched when I was 14 that I really dig that I'll still watch from time to time. So that's going to be like just kind of a nerdy,
Well, tell me about that. Because, what kind of, God damn it, my dog.
Hey, dog.
I've recently taken up the undertaking of One Piece.
Join them. You and Kaz, and I'm like, is everybody watching One Piece?
Well, here's the thing. It's not risque enough, at least not yet, that I can watch it with my kids. Like we could sit down and we can just watch 6 episodes of One Piece together, and they might say, damn it, and there might be a little bit of blood or something, but it's nothing that they can't handle. Where like in my day, I throw on Ninja Scroll and there's full-on rape within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, so Ninja Scroll is adult.
That was my apprehension, and I was like, well, let's try it, because they've watched, the new school animes. They've watched the Pokemons and the Narutos and shit, like the Avatar, the Last Airbenders and all that shit. Like, and I know that this looked kind of similar, and so far it is, but it's enjoyable enough for me as an adult to keep coming back to. I do dig it. And when you said that you were going to start this anime podcast, I was kind of like, ooh, shit, are we all like getting back into this now? Because I ain't watched it.
We're getting back into it. 100%. We watched it last year.
I never heard of it, and it's from that era too, like late 90s, early 2000s.
It actually premiered in like 87.
Oh, no shit.
So it's like super retro. So it's like all the vibes that I dig anyway. It's like retro. The music slaps. So it's like I don't watch a lot of anime, and I can't see myself. One Piece is too big. Like it's like 1,000+ episodes or something. I can't really see myself doing that.
I started watching it about 3 weeks ago, and I'm on episode 32 out of like 1,100.
There you go. Orange Road is the thing I love about Orange Road is that it's like 56 episodes if you include the OVA. So it's like you're talking less than 60 episodes. There's a movie that's like an hour and a half. You can honestly, it's really easy for folks to follow along with my podcast because they're both available for free on Crunchyroll and Retro Crush, which are both free streaming. You just have to sit through some ads or whatever, but you can
have Adam Simmons
follow my podcast, watch the show along with the podcast because they can get the content for free. The content's available on a Blu-ray that's really, really, I picked up the Blu-ray last year and it's just, they like cleaned it up. They went through the whole originals and they made it look incredible. But at any rate, people can follow the podcast that I'm going to do without any difficulty, and then they'll catch up on this really kind of cool retro, like 80s vibe that if you're down with that, then this is one of the best ones out there.
I'm going to do it because I happen to have the credentials of one Adam D. Simmons for Crunchyroll, so I can watch that without the commercial interruption. And now that you say that it's going to be there, I will definitely follow along with you as you start releasing these episodes.
Hell yeah. And I got to warn you, though, it is subtitled. They have not done an English dub.
Motherfucker, that is a deal breaker. That is a fucking deal breaker.
Very sorry. Yeah, I thought that was going to be a hitch for you, but they never did an English dub. I'm kind of glad. I don't think I could watch an Orange Road English dub at this point, but so you have to read the subtitles, but it's not tough. It's like no one's having like long speeches. They're not talking about. It's like really quick and easy. Like by the 3rd episode, you're not even going to realize that you're listening to a Japanese audio track.
Dude, can I tell you something? Adam finally stopped giving me a hard time about it because he knows that I'm a simpleton and I need to have it dubbed, so whatever. But I was watching yesterday, actually, and I texted him, and I said, hey, dude, did you ever really think about the opening song sequence for One Piece and how it's about Flat Earth? And he goes, the fuck are you talking about? And it's because I don't watch it subtitled, so I have the English dub version of the song, and I guess localization might be an issue. So there's one part, and they're like, that spot at the end of the map reveals it's only legendary till someone proves it's real. And he's like, yeah, that's not how it goes in the real version, dog. Yeah. It's not about Flat Earth. Nice try.
Got the hopes up for nothing.
That legendary face that the end of the map reveals is only legendary till someone proves it real.
But I love the fucking music. And he's like, yeah, well, think how much you'd love it if you watched it in fucking the way it was supposed to be consumed. So
that's kind of what I'm saying is like the music. Definitely, like even if you do an English dub, I don't think they should F with the music. Like just let the music be Japanese and just roll with it, because you can't.
I might actually insert that right there just so people can, because I sang it very poorly, so I might insert that there.
Yeah.
Well, when can we start expecting these changes to take place? Because, like I said, like you have been doing this very diva-like, and you've been, making changes to your. I don't think anything. I think stop.
When you perceive me, I'm a diva, regardless. If I do something loud, I'm a diva. If I do something quietly, I'm a diva. It doesn't matter what I do at this point. You're gonna be like, you diva.
Listen, you haven't said anything, not only to the general public, but to the inner circle, our brothers and sisters. You haven't said anything.
I said stuff one-on-one with people. I didn't want to make some grand announcement. Anyway.
But you've made changes to your social media to accommodate. You've removed all but a couple episodes from your feed, and you are going to record one more PG-13-esque Shit Happens When You Party Naked to be public to explain to find us going forward. We will be on Patreon. When are all these changes taking place, and when are you going to launch the new shows?
That's all coming this week. So new episode of Shit Happens When You Party. One final Shit Happens When You Party Naked, PG-13-ish, coming this week. And that's going to explain everything. I'll launch the Patreon also this week so people can find old shows, new shows. Everything Shit Happens When You Party Naked related is going to go up on Patreon. It's going to be private behind a paywall, and no one can complain about that. And then, at least according to my lawyers. Anyway, the
law offices of Simmons and Moore.
Law offices of Simmons and Moore. They take good care of it.
You almost did it. You almost Christine did it. You said the law offices of Simmons and Moore.
That's my blood sugar, Willie. And then the new shows are going to launch.
Your name, by the way, Blood Sugar Willie.
My blood sugar is Willie. The new shows are going to launch in the spring. Duck Fire Beaties, I'm not super sure about. It might be April, and I'm shooting for Abacabo Cafe March 30th.
Nice. Well, I will be there for that, and I'm going to give it a try, even though it is some reading involved.
There is a little bit of reading involved, but the music slaps. I think you're going to dig it. It's all like just so crazy 80s. It's really, really good. The vibe is like really. I think it's going to make the reading worthwhile for you.
We share that vibe. So that's
yes, you do.
That's good. I had some other things on the list, obviously, but we are getting long on time, and I have left my children unsupervised for a good hour and 45 minutes.
I better go check on them. Make sure they're alive.
I'm gonna do that. But then the one big question that a lot of people have asked me, that because some people do know, and I have kind of spilled the beans to a few folks, here and there. But one of the questions that people asked me was, how is this going to affect Creatures of the Night? Because we are hitting a stride with Creatures of the Night. We're blowing the fuck up after that last episode. We've got good things on the horizon, and the last thing we need right now is to lose our resident skeptic. So,
I don't see it. I don't see it affecting Creatures. No one's complained about Creatures of the Night.
People have complained, just not about you.
Yeah, just I should be more specific. No one has complained about my performance on Creatures of the Night. And so I am going to presume that in absence of any complaints, that we're all good. Also, it's not, I think the nature of Creatures of the Night, even though it's an adult show, there's some 4-letter words and stuff like that. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not Shit Happens When You Party Naked, right? It's still, we stay focused on these conspiracy theory topics. We don't really go, even when we go on tangents, they're like, we're being fun, we're being cheeky. I just don't see Creatures being a problem. And definitely I'm not gonna bail on Creatures without anybody saying this is an issue. It's, how much of my life do you want to control is really what the question is, and how much of my life am I willing to cede control over because I'm worried that I'm untouchable by a university or something like that.
That's a dangerous question, and that is a slippery slope, because if you start reacting one way, then they're going to say, okay, well, this is what we have to do. So, goddamn it, that tiger growl is getting annoying, and we need to get him out of there. He's shoving that flat earth narrative around, and we can't have that. So let's go after the tiger now. And then they're going to awaken Adam Simmons, and then he's going to fucking really come at them with the full extent of the Simmons.
That's another thing too, is like, that's not entirely my project. At least Shit Happens When You Party Naked. Like, you see that, you see me, you think these are kind of one and the same. Like, this individual and this show, Creatures of the Night, it's like, I'm here, I'm a part of the team, but it's a team thing. So, like, I don't know. I think Creatures is fine. I'm not anticipating making any changes with Creatures at all.
Beautiful. That is music to mine and all of our listeners of that program's ears.
Yeah.
How did real fucking quick? I know this is probably going to be longer than I want, but how did you feel about that last episode? Gun to your head, Jason. Ball or flat?
Dude, definitely ball. But I don't know, like that last episode, I got a little feedback too that I think people expected it to be more like we're going to argue with this dude. Like we have a position and our position is the same as what's taught in schools and based on science. And so we have this flat earther on and it's our job to like yell at him and try to convince him. Like, dude, you're not going to, why would I do that? Like, I'm going to have a Muslim on my show so I can yell at him why he needs to be Christian and he's wrong for being Muslim. The fact is he's got his own beliefs. He's entrenched in his own flat earth stuff and that's his deal. And I'm not going to talk him out of it, no matter what kind of compelling arguments I might make, no matter what science I might bring out. It's not going to change his mind. And the fact is Creatures of the Night is not a show for changing people's minds about stuff. It's meant to be entertaining, a little bit thought-provoking, and I actually like the fact that we respected this guy and gave him an opportunity to speak to us and answer our questions, and that everything stayed, even though I believe what I believe, and I don't think he's right. That doesn't mean that I have to have some kind of personal beef with him. So a few people that listen like hit me up and they're like, man, this is killing me. I can't listen to this shit because this guy's retarded or whatever. And it's like,
well, that's I said it on the show even, and that's the problem with all of this is that people are very, even if you think beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're right, how the fuck do you know? And I mean that you have to at least entertain the possibility to hear other shit. And people.
I don't think there's a problem with talking to somebody. Like that dude on Facebook came at us. He's like, if you give these people a platform, then you're elevating stupidity. And I'm like, come on, man. Like I'm just talking to a guy that thinks the earth is flat for an hour and a half to entertain people out. Like, why do you got to make it like some grand thing? I'm validating this a non-scientific. No, I'm talking to a kooky person, and I'm going to try to have a fun conversation that makes people giggle. That's all.
You've been talking to a kooky person for the last 2 hours, dude, because I mean, I'm a kooky fucking person. All right. I don't subscribe. And people came at me. They were like, oh man, you into that shit now? I'm like, no, I'm not into that. I mean, I'm into it, but I'm not into it. I'm not going to the fucking convention or anything, dude. Like, I mean, it was a great talk.
I would go to a convention just to report back, man. Like that would be fun. Like that would be good content, but
that's the thing though, dude. Like you said, thought provoking, and that nails it. That's a bullseye because like this is the shit I think about, and that like to what baffles me is that most people have accepted the work, home, sleep, fucking rinse, repeat. This is reality, and don't question anything beyond that. That's the fucking problem. So if you think that we talked to some dude that think that the Earth might be flat, and that's the worst thing in the world, that we didn't go on there and hold them over the fucking coals, then I mean,
yeah, it's not my job to rake people over the coals. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to do that. That's not me. That's not what I do. Like, I don't know. I just want to have a fun conversation. And if it frustrates you, you don't have to listen. Like,
I think we had a fun conversation. And I think that we're going to continue having those starting this Tuesday when we get really fucking woo-woo about the goddamn Akashic Record. So if you thought Flat Earth was bad, fucking buckle up for Tuesday night.
Hell yeah.
Jay, where can the folks find you now and going forward?
Yeah. So Patreon/Team Alme. ALME. That's how you can find Shit Happens When You Party Naked. You can hit me up on the socials too, although I lock those down. So good luck at Party Naked Pod, at Jason Alme on Twitter. So feel free to hit me up. And if I like the looks of you, I might accept your friend request and we can connect. But if I don't like the looks of you, I'm sorry. You're never going to hear from me again.
So definitely change your avatars to young boys before requesting.
All these people that I got people following me around to listen to what I'm all about. And they're going to think I'm about that life. I'm not about that little boy life.
We are the hashtag No Offense Show. We'll be joined again once Dutch returns home. In the meantime, you have to deal with me. I am the real Wutsky everywhere. Find the show on the socials at HTNOS. All the players, please subscribe. HTNOS.com. This is episode 166, motherfucker. And I would be remiss to not mention the Inner Circle Podcast Network. I mean, like, fuck, dude, we're two of the fucking granddaddies of the IC right here. The IC is the squad of killers that we represent. We fucking push because it's just good, high quality. So it's the hashtag No Offense Show. It's the Shit Happens When You Party Naked. Simmons and More, The Plunge, The Hood Diner, The Untrained Eye, Creatures of the Night, all of that shit. All the collaboration shows that I hope are going to start popping off again. again sometime soon. I mean, you can find all that shit at the Inner Circle Podcast, innercirclepn.com. What am I forgetting?
I don't know, man. That sounds pretty good to me. You mentioned everybody. Said the Untrained Eye, right?
I did say the Untrained Eye, but you know what I didn't do? I didn't do Florida stories this week, and they couldn't be brought to you by Ohfishl Clothing. So if you would, please check out our boy Kaz at ohfishl.com. That's OHFISHL. Buy some motherfucking t-shirts. This hat is an Ohfishl hat. It's so comfortable. I don't even notice it on my stupid big head because it's just good, high quality. OHFISHL.
High quality.
He won't learn. He won't learn. That fucking breaks up when I'm talking. OHFISHL, use code HTNOS, use code Party Naked, or don't. I mean, just pay fucking full price because Kaz is a guy like us that's just trying to get a fucking nut. Jason, thank you for filling in for the Dutch. I do appreciate you.
I'm here to take her spot anytime she's not.
We'll talk again soon, buddy. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah.